morning, good evening, and welcome to the Cloudcast. I'm Aaron, and I'm here with Brian.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Good. I'm here with Chris from VMware.
How you guys doing?
And I'm here with Mike from RSA.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. We're coming to you live, like literally live.
Yeah, literally live. No net tonight.
From VMware, from VMworld. So first of all, I have
You
to...
were out late last night, weren't you?
No.
We all were.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to recap Dodgeball real quick. How was it?
It was good.
You were intense.
We were. It definitely got ugly. We're claiming victory since Chad and the rest of EMC forfeited, so third place goes to first.
There you go.
As far as we're concerned. So.
I just want to know, who nailed Beaker in the face?
I think you saw that, didn't you?
I saw it. I think it was somebody from HP. No,
it wasn't us.
It was either you guys or HP.
I nailed my own guy in the back of the head.
Long throw, dead.
I'm kind of leaning towards
fire.
HP.
Complete headshot. Yeah, I think he's okay though today.
I killed George Gerchow with friendly fire.
Nice. So we got a bunch of questions here lined up for you guys. But first of all, I'm going to do something personal. My wife and my 6-year-old are supposed to be watching this live streaming right now. So, hey Kim, hey Lydia.
Go to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So first of all, let's start off. vCloud Director 1.5 was recently announced.
Yes.
So give us an overview of the highlights of the new version.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. So to add on to that, there's actually a deep dive session, so I'm going to plug that a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
There's 3 of those. It's CIM 1264 with myself and Dave Hill. We'll go into some of that exact stuff at the end of it. Probably the biggest things that we're seeing is, you guys have probably seen it, fast provisioning coming out within vCloud Director 1.5. Call-outs with blocking messages is huge for the APIs. And I would say, some advances in vShield Edge that customers were asking for, VPN, and actually something a lot of customers asked for was also 5-tuple firewall capability. So that came out of actually customer requirements.
Okay.
So on the security side, actually.
Yep.
So some security stuff, easier provisioning, a little bit of stuff around storage and link clones. So
absolutely. So all the people running Lab Manager who've been waiting for link clones and fast provisioning to do their migration definitely is going to be huge.
Cool. Very cool.
So Mike, real quick, you're a security guru. Whether you want to claim that or not,
I'm the IT guy who does security, not the security guy who does IT.
We're calling you our security guru today.
That's good enough.
Yeah, so two things. So security's a funny thing, right? It's almost like referees, right? The less you hear about it, the better it is. And then when it does have its hiccups, everybody freaks out. Although most people don't understand why it happened.
Yet they're the first to blame.
Yeah, you guys are great for throwing rocks at. What's good in security these days? What's working well, or what feels like it's kicking ass in security?
Well, what I personally think is the ability to really operationalize security, leveraging the virtual infrastructure. The virtual infrastructure gives us a whole new layer of visibility into what's going on. I know when someone powered something on, when they turned it off, when they moved it, when they changed it. I have timestamps to actions that previously might have just been the card swipe into the data center.
Okay. So it's getting more visible. Hence, more visible gives you more chance to see when bad things are happening or deal with them.
Easier to measure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And also, probably one of the other things is consistency. Now, in the virtual environment, everything's in one big giant for each loop. You don't change things onesie-twosies. You put it in a for each loop and change it consistently. So when things are done outside of that, they're a lot easier to spot.
Cool. So, Mike, how does RSA's current product offerings compare to, say, VMware's recent acquisition of Packet Motion?
Well, I only heard about Packet Motion on the plane flight out, so I'm kind of at a loss. I'm supposed to be.
At least you had Wi-Fi on the plane, right?
That was in the airport.
Oh, okay.
Clarify it this way, right? So there was a big piece of DLP is now sort of integrated into vShield.
Right.
Talk about that for a second. What does that bring? Why is that goodness?
So RSA's DLP product is data loss prevention. You'll notice that VMware's not calling it DLP; they're calling it secure data discovery. Right? So it's a subset of the functionality of RSA's DLP. RSA's DLP can run and say, if you try to print out an Excel spreadsheet with credit card information, that policy that says, no, you can't do that, will block the printing. Right? But with the DLP built into vShield, it's really more of an audit function. So I'm going to scan every VM to see, is there an Excel spreadsheet with credit card information in there? If so, report on it. So it is a subset of the existing RSA DLP, but what it's really valuable to is now we're introducing the concept of data loss prevention to a much larger audience outside of security, now into IT admins.
Nice.
Which vShield product specifically is that integrated?
It's integrated into vShield app.
That's what
Yep.
Okay. Good. So, Chris, all we hear about these days is compliance when you talk about security, right?
Yep.
So, tell us a little bit about vCloud Director to date and areas of compliance and what vCloud kind of brings to the table, or quite frankly, what it doesn't today, but it may someday, right?
Yeah.
I know you can't talk roadmaps specifically, right?
Yeah, it's actually that's a really tough question to answer because a lot of customers are looking at the catalog functionality to assist with compliance,
Yes.
where they can create what they want in their catalog and then publish it out, and ideally people will use that published environment to deploy their vApps. Now, what we found in some customers is once it gets deployed, in some customers that are especially doing development, they're deploying it to developers. Unfortunately, the developers have total access to those particular virtual
Suffer from
machines.
drift.
Sure,
There's huge drift, right? And that's just naturally anyway in any environment. So I think today what we're seeing is really trying to use the catalog, trying to isolate things as much as possible. I think we're going to see things come further down the road with Configuration Manager and some of the other product sets as they integrate. They haven't really been integrated yet that we see so far, but definitely that's going to become more and more. I was actually talking to George after I hit him in that back of the head about that yesterday on the ride home.
Did you get a better answer after doing
Yeah.
that?
No, I didn't. I think
What's
he was
the
a
answer
little
now?
thrown off. So it's really more about, it gets confusing because Cloud Director by itself is just one piece of the whole cloud puzzle. And things like the RSA integration, the Configuration Manager integration, vShield integration, it's all one big bundle. So as Cloud Director by itself, today unfortunately it's probably the catalog is the best thing.
So it's going really from a provisioning model today to provisioning and monitoring.
I don't know that I would say monitoring.
With other products, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the vCloud product itself,
Right.
but as part of the ecosystem.
And I always like to be careful because we don't really position vCloud Director as a provisioning engine. It's really a misnomer when we do that. It does a disservice to the product, actually.
Sure.
And if Eddie's watching this, then he should actually hopefully text me and say thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
It is really more about resource control, and that's what people forget is the resource control management, the ability to do chargeback or showback and things like that is what really makes it a cloud to the customer.
Okay.
One of the other things from a security standpoint is you're now moving your end users, your developers, your guys who think they need, every privilege in the book. You're now presenting the virtual infrastructure through a new layer, right? So they don't have access all the way down to the network and to the storage.
Sure.
You're presenting only what they need and only what you want them to have.
Okay.
So let me put this in a little different context. So you guys talk about cloud with customers a bunch. You talk about security with customers a bunch. One of the things you hear from people that maybe look at something like an Amazon cloud, just as an example, there's part of it's a concern about reliability or availability or SLAs, that sort of performance-driven stuff, and then part of it, the concern is sort of this trust, security. Is my data? Where's it going to go? Is it compliant? Is it getting mixed in with the other stew?
We actually had this on the Cloud Talk a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you guys were watching that. It was about cloud and security, and myself and Massimo were kind of on the side of having been in IT saying, can customers really say that their premise is more secure than, say, a service provider that's in a hybrid cloud who has to go through a lot more rigorous security testing? And it got really interesting on the debate side.
It's funny you should say that because in talking with some customers, and I talk to small customers, but mostly very large customers, and I hear some of their day-to-day practices, and it curls your toes and makes the hair stand up. And these are the first ones to say, yeah, but will I be secure if I move it to the cloud? You're not secure today.
There's a real good chance you'll be a lot more secure.
It's potentially, right?
The thing is now you have, and it's not for everybody. It really ends up becoming a people thing, not a technical thing.
Right.
But if you're going to a very large cloud service provider who has to follow any number of different regulations, he's got a security team that a small, medium business
Doesn't have.
doesn't even
Right.
have or
Yeah.
doesn't even know they should have.
Sure.
Or can't afford.
Yep.
Okay.
And,
So we're in that stage of, if you do it at scale, you should, in theory, be somewhat better. At least, you know,
Yep.
if you're good at scale, you should be better than the guy who does it small at scale. Right?
Yep.
Right.
But we're still a little bit at that stage where like little kids will be like, well, I don't like you. Well, yeah, but you're ugly. Yeah, but you're I mean, like you're comparing like bad habits to bad habits, not
Right.
how do I make it better necessarily. I mean, we're still a little bit at that stage because it's a lot more people than it is about purely technology. Is that fair?
Yeah, ask any admin if you say, maybe we should move all of the stuff
Yeah.
out to the cloud, and he says, yeah, but what about my job?
Yeah, it becomes
well,
job.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It all comes down to someone's job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he might be willing to move out, web servers that contain static images
Stuff that
Right.
will get him fired.
Right.
that won't get him fired, but he's not going to move out anything that contains sensitive data because he thinks he knows it's going to run better.
So the discussion is really about how do I make you feel comfortable with this thing that I'm looking to help you deploy. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing.
and I think vCloud's really working towards that.
Yeah.
With a lot of the stuff they've been talking about of being able to federate, a service provider's vCloud and a local vCloud,
Right.
and being able to push stuff out to a remote site. Maybe you want to do it for disaster, maybe you want to do it for security, maybe you want to do it just because you don't want to run all those systems. But also then being able to tag around the VM security policies so that I can say that VM shall never ever go out to service
Exactly.
provider A.
Okay.
Yep. And so something else is a lot of times we go after the low-hanging fruit, right? Which sometimes is test dev.
We still talk about low-hanging fruit. I'm surprised at that.
I know. And the thing with test dev is, what is test dev a lot of times? A copy of production,
Right.
right? And
Source code.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
In the raw.
what are the, do you guys encounter that a lot where security is really great at production level, but the test dev level, which is a lot of times a target.
I don't see any security at test dev.
Right, and that's what I'm kind of getting at here, right?
I don't see enough security at test
Yeah.
dev, but honestly what worries me more is folks like marketing and finance who, because they're not getting the type of service they need from IT,
Right.
go off and just buy some cloud services from an Amazon or something like that.
Software as a
And
service,
then I'm
whatever.
actually seeing where some companies are shutting off the ability to charge anything in Amazon purely for that reason.
Yeah. Just like
On a
just like
corporate
they
card.
cut
Well,
off
we always
certain
have that
websites.
conversation too. Is when we talk about vCloud Director and bringing in private cloud on premise, and the conversation's always, can we do it cheaper? And executive levels swear that their users aren't going out to Amazon and Google. And one of our VPs called out a customer and said, "Go pull the expense reports." And a week later, they came back in horror because
Yeah.
Right,
there was
right.
just
They
charge
probably-
after
they
charge
probably
after
find
charge.
it with the DLP product too. I mean, you guys can see, you could put it at the edge of the firewall. You could see everything, right? Or at least in theory, you could see most things.
Yeah, I mean, possibly.
Yeah. So question for you. So this will probably get us thrown out of VMworld for even mentioning it, but that's only.
I'm
Aaron.
already walking on thin ice in some circles.
Let's live dangerously.
Alex is shaking her fingers. See, look.
So I asked.
Uh-oh, here
my-
comes Troy.
Oh
Run.
my
Yeah.
God! What in the world? John
No, wait,
Troy,
hold on
John
really
Troy,
quick.
John
Charles
Troy looks like a
Troy.
giant disco ball.
Elvis.
Oh,
This is what you
wow.
get for being live.
Yeah.
So, anyways, getting back to the question. So, vCloud today, all the sort of integration is via API, so it's
Yep.
still considered sort of closed source, if you will.
That's not how we position it, but okay.
Okay, but it's not open source, right?
No.
It's API based access for integration.
Yep.
And you're seeing some people for various reasons, at least vendors are putting tools out there that might manage more than one hypervisor, right?
Yeah.
You guys obviously would make an argument that's sort of a waste of time. It's vSphere is the best hypervisor,
Well, I would.
best feature. All
I
right.
have to since this is
How much?
live.
Yeah.
How much? I mean, like how much?
You
do
will be
guys
reviewed.
Get, how much do you get customers saying, "Look, we like what you do. We have a huge vSphere environment, but we do have this other stuff, and we're using your management tools." Do you ever plan to do that with some others? I mean, do you get much push from customers regardless of what's on your roadmap?
So it's tough for me because I don't. I'm post-sales and delivery, so
Okay.
unfortunately, and I seriously am not dodging the question, but it ends up coming down to once post-sales gets involved, that's really
Yeah.
we've already sold it, right?
Gotcha.
So I already get in
So
there.
you don't
and
hear- you don't
no,
hear too
we don't
much
get
of
the
it.
objections.
Okay.
Where we see questions around the APIs, I mean, if you want to talk about that specifically,
Yeah,
but
sure.
we have customers asking, where's the glue, right? So orchestration's becoming a huge thing. Being able to do things. I had a conversation with the VCE guys a couple weeks ago around how do we provision on, say, a vBlock, a brand new provider VDC, using the UIM plugin for Orchestrator, using the vSphere plugin, using the vCloud Director plugin, and actually building that workflow all the way to the end so that they can actually add to a provider VDC or provision one from the ground up.
So the customer sees like one thing. He's not dealing with lots
Correct.
of Lego
Yeah.
blocks.
So what's the
Yeah.
piece in the middle, right? That does that. It could be it could be our orchestrator. It could be somebody else's orchestration engine.
Yeah,
but
there's-
orchestration is a big topic today.
And you can actually, to kind of segue into orchestration and security a bit, you can start to use orchestration for security.
Okay.
So you're not going to give all of your junior admins access to vCenter. Only a few people are going to have access to that because that's really the keys to the kingdom, and you're going to only expose the tasks that they've been qualified to do via Orchestrator. You tie that in with a SIM solution, a security incident and event management solution, and now all tasks that go through Orchestrator and all tasks that show up on vCenter now correlate. And anything that doesn't rises to the top, and now you can chase it.
Most people today that are probably watching this, I could probably count on one hand the number of customers who actually implement role-based access inside vCenter.
Right. Yes.
When we come in and do a cloud implementation, it becomes mandatory because those same ESX admins that might have been in Virtual Center just to patch ESX hosts, we want to actually prevent them from seeing virtual machines,
Right.
Because those machines are controlled by vCloud Director. So
course, yeah.
just at the basic level, to your point around who has access to vCenter now, it becomes a total change. So operational procedures are changing.
Especially as you start layering all these new abstraction layers, like View and Orchestrator and others,
Right.
you really have to step back and say, I really have to limit who can touch that because they
Yeah,
could totally
right.
destroy my world.
Oh yeah. Especially, I mean, we were hanging out at the expert show the event last night, and even that, I got to imagine 2/3 of the guys in that room are going, I'm pretty much a storage guy, and now they're asking me to do network, or now I'm a network guy, and they're asking me to do virtual.
The roles are converging fast.
The chance to make mistakes there is huge. Until people get, they get comfortable, they get multi-skilled.
A year ago, we were talking about a vSphere admin or a cloud, not a cloud team, but a virtualization team within a customer. Now we're talking about,
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, or we're talking about a set of cloud administrators separate from a set of vCenter administrators. Infrastructure administrators.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Let's bring it back to compliance for a second.
Sure.
So, yeah,
He's going to beat that dead
No
horse.
kidding.
I'm gonna absolutely.
Where's George?
Yeah. Which compliance models are you seeing the most right now? Is it HIPAA? Is it SOX? Is it PCI? PCI.
Yeah.
PCI is big.
Okay. And
You know.
all the stolen money goes.
Yeah.
It's like the old bank. It's like the old bank robber joke, right? Why do you rob banks? Because that's where all the money is.
I mean,
Exactly.
let's be honest. How many of us have PlayStation 3 accounts?
right.
I mean, look at what happened to that
Yeah.
network and how many dollars were lost over the time it was down. That was all PCI compliance.
Not to
Yep.
mention their credibility. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
credit
shot.
card information. It's huge. My wife's company has, a couple hundred employees, and they have to meet PCI compliance because they deal with schools and social security numbers.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
And there's many ways to address each of those different compliance things, but what you really need to do is regularly assess your environment to ensure that it stays in compliance.
Right.
And there's lots of tools, both from VMware and from RSA,
It's like
that can
testing
help you.
restores, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does the backup, but nobody
tests the
restore.
tape.
So they need the VMware tagline that's now vSphere, the credit card hypervisor.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know that I'll go that far.
You don't want to commit to that one?
No.
So you guys touched on orchestration a little bit, right? So VMware, vCenter, vCloud, really good at automation, up and down a lot of things, right? Obviously getting better. The orchestration piece, VCO, so vCloud Orchestrator, doesn't get as much buzz.
It does
How
not.
come? Why not?
It's actually kind of interesting because it's free.
Yeah.
Right? I will
Yeah.
say, if everybody doesn't know it, it's installed on your virtual center, right? I mean, a lot of people just don't know that they can go configure it. I think Christoph and his team, VCO.info guys, have done a great job just getting the word out there. We're doing it more from a cloud perspective because for us, it's the easiest orchestration tool available. Customers don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's a good start. I mean, we're seeing VSM, Service Manager out there as well, but it's if we get customers to configure it, we're seeing the UIM plugins, we're seeing third-party plugins. So we're seeing more come along. We're seeing VCE come along and say, can we use this with UIM and do provisioning? I don't know. I really don't know. I asked the same question myself. I said, why don't people set it up?
Does it have anything to do potentially with, if you think it's free, there's that perception of maybe it doesn't do enough?
I think people think it's hard to configure. I mean, I personally haven't played with it a lot. Getting it set up
there's so many people. I think we're like 2-3 years ahead of the general IT populace, right? And so these are all new concepts to a lot of folks. I mean, we heard earlier this morning in Duncan's HA session, a couple of guys who are afraid to turn on HA.
Oh, boy.
Right? Yeah. And they think they can do it better with other products and manually. And I mean, if you have that level of I'm afraid to try that, then something like VCO is way down the list.
But I think that what having come from an administrator's background, I think what customers have a hard time doing is actually documenting the procedure to write the automation. So it's they know how to click, they know what buttons to push, but they've never actually written it down. And part of building an orchestration inside Orchestrator is actually having the written workflow, same as you would for a failover for SRM, right? We say that with SRM, you got to have the run book, and it's no different for orchestration. And administrators just say, well, I just know how to do it. And when you ask them to sort of document it, they go, well, what steps do you have to get? It's I kind of describe orchestration and workflowing and automation really simply. When we were all kids, we had to write how did you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Right.
And how many steps did it take? Did you walk to the cabinet? Did you open the cabinet? Did you grab the red? That's how detailed an orchestration has to be for automation to work. Because if you miss a step, then it's going to fail. Right?
So it might actually fall into that same, I'm concerned about my job. Right, there's always.
I don't want to document what I do because everybody knows what it is.
Because anybody can grab the book and do it, right?
They never wanted Fred Flintstone to leave because he was the only guy who could operate the dinosaur. If you're the only guy that knows it in your head, why would you write it down?
Exactly.
Somebody else can do your job.
And we're pushing for that. We're pushing for more operational documentation at customers so that we can capture that and turn it into an automation.
And this is sad, but it is true at times. Back when I was doing professional services, a lot of times the documentation would be delivering step by step, right? And
well, what's the last step of every project? Deliver documentation.
Right, exactly.
What's the first thing to fall off? Delivery of documentation.
And think about this. The longer it was, the more impressive it looked, right? If you just gave somebody, here's your orchestrator. You just plug it in and you run it, and they're well, you didn't really do that much.
When I was
an
administrator, when I was an admin, I didn't have time to really document. It came down to project ended, next project goes. When you pay for services, I mean, that's obviously a deliverable, so we do that because we're committed to doing it.
Well, and there was a number of times, too, where I was actually did consulting gigs where all I did was go in and write the existing procedures. It was... All right, show me how you do this, right?
How do you do it now?
He's a freak, though. He likes documenting stuff.
I don't like it. He's totally... I've gotten away this long.
As the documentation side of the podcast, I'm definitely that person.
You're
I admit
an odd
it.
cat.
I know.
Document your environment, kids.
Or Aaron's going to come after you.
Well, listen, we've talked about a lot of stuff. I mean, we talked about changing job roles. We talked about what's new in the products. We talked about security to a certain extent. Real quick, because we're going to wrap this up. Folks only want to see our faces for so long. Real quick plug. Where are you guys going to be at this week? Where can they find you on the web?
Yep. So myself, I've got, as mentioned at the beginning, CIM 1264, 3 sessions of it this week, actually.
Okay.
A third one got added on Thursday. I don't know the exact times. That's the vCloud Deep Dive, vCloud Director Deep Dive with Dave Hill out of the UK. There's also 2 group discussions that I have called vCloud with Chris Colotti, GD06, and then I'm also part of the experts one-on-one. So actually, we do need to plug that. I guess people don't know they have to sign up for that. So you have to go right outside the Solutions Exchange behind us, and there's a sign-up desk.
Oh, cool.
Kiki should be over there at the desk, but you can get an hour with different experts. Mike DiPetrillo's over there. Duncan Epping's going to be over there. Myself. Massimo. So with Duncan and myself, you even get a couple VCDXs over there.
Maybe sign some books or something.
I don't sign any books. I don't.
What about you, Mike? Where are you going to be?
So I didn't get any sessions this time around.
No,
that was short.
So I'm up.
So you're just going to stump out here and you're just going to talk. And
all he's going to do is fill the cup up with beer.
So you've got my blog. It's www.yelloff.com, which is Foley spelled backwards.
Oh, okay.
And I'm at Mike Foley on Twitter and a pretty prolific Twitter, tweet head, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I'm around here. If you want to talk security, send me a tweet and find me. I'm more than happy to talk security with folks. I'm actually here attending.
Oh, awesome.
And you're now the reigning quiz show champion. Show them the
Yeah,
cup.
I do have my new quiz show champion. I will not be drinking beer from this later.
Well, he says that now.
Yeah, it's only because it's not big enough.
Yeah,
Might
well,
drink- might drink something else from
I'll
me.
put a plug in for Christopher Cusek's party tonight, the CXI party.
Yep.
I will not be bringing this to the CXI party because I'll probably end up leaving it there.
Just to add, my Twitter ID is cColotti on Twitter, and my website's easy. It's chriscolotti.us.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and I'm at Mike Foley.
We'll have all that in the show notes. So, real quick before you go out, tomorrow's my 8-year anniversary. So, if my wife and kids are at home, honey, thanks for letting me come here. Love you to death.
Happy
sorry
wife,
I'm not
happy
here.
life.
Yeah. Oh, and I have to say this as well.
He said the flowers are on their way.
Yeah, tomorrow is my 14-year anniversary. So, Kim, if you're still watching this and you're not bored by now and haven't shut it off,
This is the first year in a row
Love you,
that hasn't
baby.
landed over my anniversary. So,
Yeah.
so coincidentally, we both have the same
So me and
anniversary.
Aaron are in the doghouse. We might have to stay out here.
nice.
Well, guys, thank you very much for being
Thank
on.
you.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Aaron, you want to take us home?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter at @thecloudcastnet or follow us on the web at thecloudcast.net, where you can find links to the show and show notes. And you want me to look there? Okay, fine. And details how to stream us on
Stitcher.
Stitcher. Jeez, I messed that up again. Thanks for listening.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks, guys.